What's up, guys? It's Players Championship week on the PGA Tour. It's not a major, don't call it a major, but it is the PGA Tour's flagship signature event taking place at TPC Sawgrass, which of course is home to the famous Island Green on the 17th hole. Today's video going to be the typical stuff. We're going to take a look at the course preview. We're going to take a look at the odds board. We are going to look at course history. We are going to build a custom model over on rickrungood.com. And then we are going to try to make a single entry lineup that can make some noise. And take this week with a grain of salt because I have a terrible track record picking players, doing my research for this course. We've got all the numbers, all the data. This is the week that pays the absolute most, highest purse for one and dones, and I have not been able to get the job done in years past. So here's to hoping that changes and the tides turn in my favor in 2026. But without further ado, let's jump right in by taking a look at the course preview over on BetSperts. So Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass, you see it right here, the famous Island Green on the 17th hole. Course is a par 72. Water is in play, and that's kind of what's gotten me in trouble. You pick guys that you think can hit the ball straight and keep the ball out of harm's way, and then they find water. You see it right here. Water on 16 holes. Water danger holes rank first out of 44 courses. It's not the longest course, and it is scoreable with the 4 par 5s and under 7,500 total yards. Full field event, as you know. So whereas the signature events have had the smaller field, 72 to 80 players in a really small cut, chances are this week your player is going to get cut, just odds based purely by the numbers. There's going to be less guys that make the cut than guys who, or there's going to be more guys who miss the cut than guys who make the cut. Well, I mean, that depends basically how many people make the cut on the number. That could change things, but essentially it's a toss up, unlike these signature events. Over the years here, it's kind of just a mishmash because you can have guys that win it and then you guys have guys that miss the cut. You can have a good string of success, like you look at Hideki right here, a 7th, an 8th, a 5th, a 6th, but then a miss, a miss, a miss, a miss. This was the COVID year. Sorry, not a miss. But it's a course where water is going to be in play, but it's going to be scoreable. So the things that I always historically look at is good par 5 scoring, good on approach, proximity numbers. You're not wayward with it. And if you can keep the ball in the short grass off the tee, that's going to tremendously help you for that second shot. I think last year, the year before, I used Hideki, and he could not keep the ball straight here. And then he's just hacking out of, the forest and the woods and the pine straw. So it quickly can escalate and become a disaster. 47 of the top 50 in the world are here this week. Few other courses, like I've said, match the risk and reward at Sawgrass. You can shoot really low, and typically the winning score has been a pretty good score here, but you can also just be bludgeoned if you cannot keep the ball out of the water. And this course has made really good golfers look like really bad golfers. So it says here, success here usually belongs to golfers who are mentally tough, complete all-around skill set, and arrive in sharp form. It pressures players to execute precise shots and make smart decisions. And I think the decision making, especially on some of these par 5s over water, is where you can really see this tournament won and lost. So with that said, let's go to the odds board and take a look at the projections for this week. Scotty, I believe he was at plus 350, so he's drifted a bit to plus 425. Rory has drifted significantly to plus 1400 on the news that his status is shaky with the back spasms. Colin Morikawa here at 20 to 1. Surprising to see Siwoo Kim in the top 4. You don't consider him a top 4 golfer in the world, but even in a strong field like this, he's showing some teeth at 24 to 1. Tommy at 25 to 1. Ludwig up to 27 to 1 on the backs of a really strong showing this past weekend at Bay Hill. Xander, a really good number on Xander, honestly. If we get any semblance of the Xander that we've seen over the last couple of years, or 2 years ago when he won 2 majors, you are not seeing Xander at 29 to 1 very often. I mean, that's an extremely rare number. Hovland, I don't know. I don't think he's for me this week. Batia way up here at 42 to 1. Chris Goddard, I love the way he's been playing. I think that's a really fair number at 44 to 1. Daniel Berger soaring to 50 to 1 off a really strong showing, but could not close the deal last week at API. Cantlay kind of rare to see him drifting this far. Straka up again, continues to play decent. Lowry, this is an interesting number because he's 63-1. He typically plays really well in Florida. I think over the last 5 years, he leads the tour in strokes gained in Florida. JJ Spawn nearly won last year. I like the way Thigala's playing lately at 80-1. Justin Thomas, not for me, at 90. I do have some interest in Corey Connors at 94. Aaron Rye, again, we say this at a lot of places. He should typically set up well because he's one of the straightest drivers and really good on approach. He's, if he's going to be struggling, it's usually due to the flat stick. Jason Day, course history, if you believe in it, 115-1. And let's see if anybody else. Tony Finau obviously has played this course a ton of times, 200-1, not playing his best golf over the last 12 months or so, and has not played a ton early in this 2026 season. Tom Hoagie, he's played here. He's played well here before. I think we can actually verify that over in the course history tool. 300-1 on Hoagie. Nobody else really popping. So with that said, let's jump over to that course history tool. I think he's played really well here. Sort by true strokes gained. Yeah, Hoagie. A couple of top 3 finishes and gaining 1.73 strokes per round adjusted in true strokes gained. Aaron Rye has played well here, a top 15 last year. Siwoo Kim has a win here way back when and has 2 top 10s in his last 5 appearances here. Corey Connors has played well here, a 13th, a 6th, a 7th. He's gaining over 2 strokes gained per round here. Scotty Scheffler, of course, the 2 wins, not in the best form. And then Matsuyama, again, I believe I used him last year when he was cut. I may have even used him here in 2021 when he's cut. And then the years I don't use him, of course, he flashes brilliance with a 5th and a tie for 6th. Colin, mixed bag. No true shots at a win here in his past, but consistently well. Rory, of course, beat JJ Spawn in the Monday playoff last year. But again, some of this it's so difficult because one bad shot takes you out of it. A couple shots into the water, a bad stretch. I mean, you see it time and time again. We saw it with Hideki. You see it here with Hovland, a 9th and a 3rd, and then you're talking about a cut, and a T62. This is a really hard course to consistently be on top of your game, unless, of course, you're Scotty Scheffler, you reel off back-to-back wins. But even last year, a T20. So again, you're just going to have to kind of trust your own instinct, your gut. Form doesn't necessarily mean that your guy's going to win. I've used guys here over the past handful of years that were riding excellent form, and then you would not know that they knew how to play golf when they showed up here at TPC Sawgrass. So that has been disappointing for me. Honestly, I believe I've only made 1 cut here in one and done in the 5 or 6 years that I've been playing. So again, it's been a bit of a struggle for me, but we're going to attempt to rectify that this week. And let's now hop on over to rickrungood.com and see what we can do in terms of a model. Start here with the baseline. Start here with the baseline weighted strokes gained total 10. I'm going to be really heavy on like approach and proximity this week. So let's go approach over the last 36, 10. Approach over the last 110. Let's go. I always like bogey avoidance. Let's do 10 here. Actually, let's lower it to 5 because water can get in the way of that. I know that's something I like to point out on courses like this. Fairways gained, let's go 10. Good drives, let's go 5. Approach, really want to hone in on opportunities gained and greens gained, and par 5s I think are going to be critically important this week. Do you score well on par 5s? Let's look at, what do we have? 20 points more to use. Let's look at, let's go. Should we go? Let's do a little tee to green. How are you doing in all facets of the game right now besides putting? And then for the final 10, what is really, really important to me here? We got the bogey avoidance. Birdie or better. Let's do birdies or better gain, because you're gonna have to score here. Let's see what that gives us. Scotty to the top, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Scotty's a good play into one and done because I don't think a ton of people are going to use him. I will not be on him in DraftKings regardless of what the model says. He's not playing well enough for me right now, and a lot of this factors in when he was just scorching hot the past couple of years. But at 14-2, I just think there's better ways to capitalize. Tommy, not surprised to see him, but he really struggled last week. Colin's playing well. Already has a win this year. Siwoo Kim. So this is interesting. I was saying I was a little bit surprised that he was fourth on the odds board, but the model seems to like him. How are these guys doing specifically in par 5 scoring? Scotty's first. Tommy is fifth. Wow, Colin outside of the top 50 scoring on par 5. So that means he does a lot of his damage because he's such a good iron player on probably a lot of these the long par 4s. But with him not being... he's been a little bit better in terms of distance this year, but with him not being really a heavy hitter, he sometimes has really extraordinarily long shots into par 5s. And again, when you talk about a course like this is where this can get you, because he's going to want to push the pedal down and press the issue. But with his distance, if you're trying to talk about carrying water and being really precise with your irons over water on long approaches into par 5s, that could get worrisome. So I'm glad that I looked specifically into this strokes gained par 5 column, because again, I think this is where you're going to have to make your noise this week. It is good to see that Tommy is in the top 5. Not the longest hitter, but consistently gets the job done in terms of scoring and taking advantages of the par 5 opportunities. Straka, I always like. Spawn popping in the top 10 again. Berger at a really good price, 7,100. Aaron Rye at a really nice price, 7,200. Lowry, interesting, because he's right next to a very underpriced Ludwig at 8,700. And Lowry, again, tends to play well in Florida. Missed the cut. He's going to be not happy with himself about that. I'm sure he's gotten to Sawgrass a little bit early to rectify things. So I'm really interested to see with Ludwig at 8,700 and I believe a top 7 option on the odds board. Does that help you get unique with Lowry at 86? Connors, I'm glad to see him up here at 71. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of the usual suspects. And I think we're going to be able to, based on what I'm seeing in terms of pricing, 74, 71, 72, Connors at 71. I think we're going to be able to put together a really strong lineup. And I do like the way that this model turned out. These are the types of guys. You're not just seeing only power at the top. You're not just seeing only finesse at the top. You're getting a really nice mix. And I think that's going to be typical of what you see at a tournament like this. Really good golfers, but any style can get it done. It doesn't mean that you have to be, just kind of typecast into playing one way to have success here. We saw, perfect example was last year. We saw JJ Spawn and Rory McIlroy meet in the playoff. Two totally different guys. You're talking about a guy like Rory who is just going to overpower the course and then give himself as many chances for birdie as possible. And then you're talking about Spawn, who's going to be more accurate, more finesse, have longer irons in, but really, really accurate. So I think that perfectly encapsulates kind of what this course can present and the types of guys who can pop to the top. And it's really any type of player. So with that being said, let's head over to DraftKings and build a lineup that kind of meets the criteria of the model. I think Fleetwood is going to be definitely in number 2 and ranking really high in par 5 scoring. I think I really want to put Berger in here. Straka, I like him and I love that he's rating highly in the model. Let's get Straka in here. Let's get, we've got Siwoo at 93. Both of these guys are playing extremely well, Morikawa and Siwoo. I think the reason I want to go to Siwoo is because he is going to be far less owned, in my opinion. If you saw, the odds board views them very similarly. But a guy like Morikawa, to me, who's going to catch so much ownership, I'm not sure that I believe that it's going to be this close. I think people are going to absolutely flock to Morikawa. And if you can get off Morikawa, maybe that does allow you to have the chalk Oberg, who is just behind both of them in the odds. Where does that leave us? If we go Siwoo Kim and Ludwig, that leaves us 7,000. Does that give us Connors or any of those other guys? It gives us Thigala. Where are we at here? We were at Berger, Rye. We can't get up to Rye. Connors. Yeah, that becomes really interesting. Who else rated out really highly in the model? Now, didn't we say we could also leverage Lowry? Yeah, Lowry is coming in ahead of Ludwig. I think maybe if you make that swap, then you can get Connors or Rye. Yeah, you can sneak in Connors, who I like this week. And I like this. I think this is very well balanced. You don't have anybody at the very, very top, but you've got Siwoo Kim, who's top 4 in the odds board. You've got Fleetwood, who was... Where was Fleetwood? Fleetwood was... Yeah, so you've got 4 and 5. You're not going to Scheffler because of the salary reasons. You're jumping off of this crazy train of chalk, and then you're getting to the next 2 guys in the odds, Fleetwood and Siwoo Kim. You get Straka, Berger, Lowry, and Connors, and you use all your salary while being unique. I think that's honestly a really, really strong lineup, and I think it gets you off of some of the names that if they bust, you're propelled. If Ludwig goes out and doesn't play like he did last week, you're ahead of a bunch of people. If Siwoo Kim plays better than Morikawa, or Morikawa just has an off week, like I said, I've used guys here before who were coming in on a really good run of form, and this course can still get the best of them. So I think this lineup is very unique and very interesting because you can get off of some of the chalk and still use all your salary, and you still have 2 of the top 5 guys on the odds board. I think it's very uniquely constructed to succeed and be really providing you with some excellent leverage over some of the other more popular lineups. So with that said, that's going to do it for us this week. Good luck in your one and done. Good luck in DFS. Cash some outright bets. Let me know in the comments who you like this week, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.